Now, we're going to have to take a break in a moment, but why, as Sam brought up, why might God want to stop Muhammad from preaching falsehood? Why might God want to stop Muhammad from leading people astray? The question is, do we have evidence that Muhammad's claims were false, that Muhammad was leading people astray? Yep. Perhaps about Jesus, perhaps about God, perhaps about God's nature. Do we have evidence of this? Do we have evidence of other times when Muhammad was speaking falsehoods against God? In fact, don't we have in the Muslims' own sources, in Islam's own sources, that Muhammad spoke falsehood on behalf of God?
Yes, exactly. That's, in fact, you had a debate on that topic, did you not?
Yes, I had a debate on the satanic verses with a Muslim named Adnan Rashid.
And again, we encourage the audience to go and watch that debate online for free by going to Dave's blog. David Wood has a blog, answeringmuslims.com, www.answeringmuslims.com. He had a debate with a Salafi Muslim. He was a Salafi, was he not? Adnan Rashid, on whether Muhammad uttered the satanic verses. And if we have a few moments, maybe, Dave, you can sum up real quickly what the satanic verses are and how Muhammad put in the mouth of God verses that actually did not come from him.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll go into some of the evidence of Muhammad actually leading people astray about God, not according to us, according to Muslim sources, and then we'll see how Muhammad led people astray about the gospel. And we'll start taking callers when we come back, and we'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back to Jesus or Muhammad, here with my brothers Sam Shamoon and C.L. Edwards. We've been talking about Muhammad. We've been talking about a little test that Muhammad presented to people. He said that if he happened to be speaking falsehoods, God would sever his aorta. And we looked at several passages, and if you want more, call in. We'll give you plenty more passages from Islam's most trusted collection, saying that Muhammad died, complaining that he could feel his aorta being severed. Now, this doesn't look a lot like a coincidence. I'm skeptical about things that are supernatural involving Muhammad, but if anything, if there's any miracle involved in the life of Muhammad, it would have to be this one. Muhammad says, if I'm a false prophet, if I'm leading people astray, this is how I'm going to die, and that was exactly how he died. Pretty interesting stuff going on there, and that probably has something to do with the fact that so few Muslims know so little about the death of Muhammad. You don't want to start telling people that Muhammad died complaining of feeling his aorta being severed, when that same Muslim might be reading the Quran one day and see Muhammad say, well, if I'm leading people astray, God's going to sever my aorta. So the question is, what sort of things might Muhammad have done that qualified as leading people astray about God? Interestingly, we find this in the Muslim sources. We find in the Muslim sources that Muhammad spoke falsehood on behalf of God. So as Christians, we would say Muhammad said lots of false things, but it's interesting when we have that, according to Muslim sources, Muhammad making false claims. So as an example, the satanic verses. It's an interesting story. You don't hear a lot about this from Muslim sources anymore. But in the earliest Muslim sources, the earliest Muslim scholars, this was everywhere. This was all over the place. The most reliable sources within the first century, I'm talking people like Ibn Abbas, were reporting that Muhammad delivered revelations from the devil. Yes, you heard that right. Muhammad's companions reporting that he had delivered revelations from the devil. Not according to me, not according to Jews, not according to Christians, not according to atheists, according to Muhammad's companions. What happened? Well, the basic story goes like this. Muhammad was upset that so few people were converting to Islam. I know Muslims like to believe that Muhammad started preaching and people just started bowing down. Nonsense, nonsense. Muhammad won very few followers when he was just preaching. Muhammad started winning more and more followers when he started conquering and saying, hey, come join with me and you'll split the rewards. That's when Muhammad started winning lots of followers. But during this early period, when Muhammad is just preaching and using the eloquence of the Quran, he won practically no followers at all. He had a few dozen at this time. So Muhammad gets a few dozen followers preaching the Quran. Everyone else is rejecting it. And he feels very upset. that so few people are converting to Islam. He wants his tribe, he wants the Quraysh to convert to Islam, and he was longing, according to the story, this is not according to me, this is according to Muslim sources. Muhammad is longing for a revelation from God that would help the Quraysh convert to Islam. One day, Muhammad got what he was looking for. Muhammad was delivering Surah 53 of the Quran, and suddenly, according to the story, Satan slipped some revelations. And so what Muhammad said to his followers was, have you not heard of Alat, Alus, and Manat, the third, the other? These were three pagan goddesses that were very dear to the people of Mecca. Muhammad said, have you not heard of Alat, Alus, and Manat, the third, the other? These are the exalted cranes whose intercession is to be hoped for. So the idea is that these three goddesses are compared to birds who are exalted and can carry your prayers up to Allah. And so you hope for their intercession. You hope that they can intercede for you. Take your prayers up to Allah. Well, the pagans were overjoyed that Muhammad had spoken favorably of their goddesses, and here's what happened. They bowed down. So Muhammad bows down in honor of receiving this revelation. His followers bowed down in honor of receiving this revelation. And all the pagans who were overjoyed that Muhammad was now promoting polytheism and promoting their goddesses, they bowed down too. Muhammad's happy. Muhammad's happy. Now they're getting on board with my religion. But according to the story, a little later, Muhammad comes back and says, sorry. You know those verses that I delivered? You know those verses that I delivered? They didn't really come from God. They came from Satan. Satan tricked me into delivering these revelations to you. God doesn't really accept these other goddesses, and they can't intercede for you. Now, what does this mean? Why would this be embarrassing for the early Muslim community? Well, one, Muhammad committed shirk. He associated three goddesses with Allah. You have your prophet, who many Muslims still tell me today, I don't know why, but many Muslims still tell me that Muhammad was sinless, or at least free of all major sin. And here you have the worst possible sin, shirk, being committed by Muhammad. So Muhammad committed shirk. This is also a major problem because, according to Moses, whom you Muslims claim to believe in, Muhammad should have been put to death as a false prophet. That's not according to me, that's according to Moses. Moses said in Deuteronomy 18, that if someone delivers a revelation that doesn't come from God, if someone claims to be speaking on behalf of God and gives a revelation that doesn't come from God, or two, speaks in the name of other gods, false prophet has to die. You Muslims claim to believe in Moses. But if Moses had been in charge when Muhammad brought these verses, Moses would have ordered the people to pick up stones and stone Muhammad to death as a false prophet. And again, this isn't according to us. This is not according to C.L. Edwards or Sam Shamoun or David Wood. This is according to Muslim sources. This is according to people like Ibn Abbas, the founder of Quranic studies, saying Muhammad delivered these verses. And these verses show that he's a false prophet. These are the sorts of things we find when we go to the Muslim sources. And later on, it shouldn't be surprising that Muhammad, who's saying, God's going to strike me down if I'm a false prophet, dies in exactly the way he said God would strike him down. Sam, what else do we have?
Yes. In fact, I don't know how many of our audience may be aware of the fact that according to the classical Muslim commentators, two specific verses were quote-unquote revealed. I keep saying revealed in quotations because as Christians, we do not believe the Quran is revelation from the true God. Again, notice my qualification, revelation from the true God. I am persuaded that much of what we find in the Quran are things that Muhammad picked up, but also that Muhammad was inspired by a spirit who wasn't the true Holy Spirit of the living God. We can discuss that in a future session, or if someone wants to call in and ask me to elaborate on that point, I don't mind. But according to the classical commentators, chapter 6, verse 93 of the Quran, chapter 6, verse 93, and chapter 16, verse 106 were composed in part to rebuke an apostate named Abdullah ibn Abisar. Abisar happens to be the foster brother of Uthman ibn Affan. Who's Uthman? He was the third Khalif, the third Caliph. Let me read just chapter 6, verse 93, and the audience will see the relevance this passage and the expositor's interpretation of this passage have on what David said and what the Quran said would happen to Muhammad if he forged chapters or sayings and attributed it to his God Allah. 6, verse 93. Who is more wicked than the man who invents a falsehood about Allah or says, this was revealed to me, I'm receiving revelation from Allah, when nothing was revealed to him. Or the man who says, I can reveal the like of what God has revealed. Notice the last part. Or the man who says, I can reveal the like of what Allah, God has revealed. Now, let's see what Al-Qurtubi says. Al-Qurtubi happens to be one of the greatest Muslim expositors and one of the main commentators that Muslims appeal to properly understand the context of the Quran. My brother here can confirm that some of the expositors that Muslims consult to understand the Quran and its context happen to include Ibn Kathir, Al-Tabari, Al-Qurtubi, as well as the two Jalals, Jalalain, and a host of others, one of which I'll also quote, Al-Baydawi. And he's also an important expositor. But let me see what Qurtubi says about chapter 6, verse 93. The pronoun man is grammatically in the jar case. The meaning is, who is more wicked than he who said, I can reveal? The person addressed here is Abdullah ibn Sa'd ibn Abisar. Abdullah ibn Sa'd ibn Abisar, who used to write the revelation for the Prophet of God. He's one of Muhammad's scribes. Later on, he apostatized and joined the pagans. Now, why did he do that? Why did he apostatize? Here, the reason given by the commentators is that when verse 23:12, chapter 23, verse 12 of the Quran, was quote-unquote revealed, we created man of an extraction of clay. The Prophet called him and dictated to him, and when the Prophet reached the end of Surah 23:14, here are the words, thereafter we produced him as another creature. Abdullah said in amazement, so blessed be Allah, the fairest of creators. The Prophet said, now notice this, Dave. This is Abdullah who said that in amazement. He stood in awe of what the Quran said about Allah and His creating man. The Prophet said, and thus it was revealed to me. In other words, what you just said, Abdullah, is revealed to me, included in the chapter. In fact, can you do me a favor, Brother Dave? Can you go to Surah 23:14 and read how that surah ends? As you get there, let me read Abdullah's response. When Muhammad said, what Abdullah just said was revealed to me, Allah revealed what you just said to me, included, which made Abdullah doubt. He started doubting and said, if Muhammad is truthful, then I received the revelation, and if he lied, I say of the like of his speech. In other words, if he's right, then I'm inspired too, because it came from my mouth. But if he's lying, then I'm able to reveal something like the Quran. You see his logic? Impeccable, right? Notice what he's saying. Wait. Muhammad, you said that just what came out of my mouth was revealed to you, but it came from me. That means I'm just as inspired as you. But if you're lying, then I'm able to produce something like the Quran because you took my uninspired words and made it part of the revelation.
You know what that is? That's a burst of common sense.
Precisely.
That is a burst of common sense. My friends, you can find all kinds of evidence that Muhammad was a false prophet, and here on this program, we give it to you. We give you all kinds of evidence. If you just read the Muslim sources, this stuff will jump out at you, and here you have one of Muhammad's companions
and a scribe
who converted to Islam, a man who is sitting there writing the Quran as Muhammad speaks it. And what does he say? If this guy's a prophet, then I'm a prophet because I'm writing this stuff too.
And see if Muhammad included his words in Surah 23:14.
Yeah, let's go. So this is Surah 23, verse 14. And this verse is interesting for two reasons. One, because it's totally scientifically inaccurate. And two, because it includes the words, not of Muhammad, not the words that he received, but something that one of his companions exclaimed when he was hearing it. So this man was inspired too. He's a source of part of the Quran. Let's read it. Then fashioned we the drop a clot. Then fashioned we the clot a little lump. Then fashioned we the little lump bones. Then clothed the bones with flesh. This is describing embryonic development, and it's totally, totally wrong what happens here. Then clothed the bones with flesh, and then produced it another creation. So blessed be Allah, the best of creators. That was a revelation from God, the best. Oh, wow.
He said, praise be Allah, blessed be Allah, the best, the fairest of all creators. And Muhammad said, oh, that's revealed to me. Put it down.
Now think about this. Think about the irony here. Muhammad is claiming that this verse is revealed by Allah, and it's telling him about the development of a fetus in the mother. Yeah. It's totally wrong, so there's no way this is from God. It's totally, completely, utterly false in its description of how the fetus develops. And then you have one of Muhammad's companions exclaims when he hears this, and he thinks, aha, it's finally been revealed. Even though it hasn't been revealed, it's totally wrong. He thinks it's been revealed how a baby develops in the mother's womb, and he says, blessed be Allah, the best to create. Then Muhammad says, oh yeah, put